Heidi. Hi, my friends and family. Today I have a rather extremely painful talk called, Is this Archontic society an incurable disease? But it was yesterday. Is this Archontic society an incurable disease? It's Maya. The more you learn about the nature of the Matrix, the attributes of the forced compulsory human energy extraction system, rapidly growing with 5, 6, 7G internet, humans 2.0, just look at the sunless geoengineered skies. Well, it was when I wrote this, but I finally got to the glorious California sunshine underneath the torture. It's Maya. Is this place, so-called PlaneNet, purgatory for lost souls? The continued rise of the fully pathological M. What I... Oh, yeah, one day, this man that unfortunately was... He told me he was an orphaned as a child, and he had a very high IQ. And when I first met him, he was in his early 60s and had a one-man band. He played with a looper at restaurants, and he invited me in his RV to smoke a bowl. And he ended up on the streets, and he, at one point in his life, he was the greatest surfboard, one of the greatest surfboard designers in Santa Cruz, and but he talked a lot of trash about society all the time, and when he became homeless, and one time I think a gangster ran over him, and he was in a wheelchair for a while, but he kind of never fully recovered, but he would ride his mountain bike for like 40 miles at a time before that, and I remember one time when I was kind of upset and traumatized, I said to him, if you could see the second bardo, what the Tibetans call the second bardo, or the spiritual dimension of this town, I said, you and I both would leave and never come back because of all the... At that point, I thought it was ghosts or dead people that were haunting me, but I wasn't really aware of the way it worked quite as... And I'm not saying I am now. I've learned a lot, done a lot of research. So, the ever-growing popularity of the luciferic, archonic, filthy, inverted, soul-sucking lies of the snake-based societies. Ever since the Brotherhood of the Snakes in Atlantis, my blood kin included. I mean, I was coming from a line of, in the Freemasons, and so, I mean, I don't know if that's related to, Lisa Renee claims that in Atlantis it was called the Brotherhood of the Snakes, and that was the beginning of the secret societies. And so the rulership of the invisible hand of the market, eventually, that's really what I think the Luciferic or the inverted forces of the fallen angels that created the Matrix. They promote and enforce this 3D. I don't know if it's 3D. I wouldn't say. I mean, maybe 3D only. It seems with some of them, but like we're trying to pull you down into the 3D only. Remember, to the demonic archons crowding into the second bardo, or the spiritual, what it's called, the astral plane or the astral dimension. Your misery and mistakes are their food. Okay, I'll just keep saying it to help remind everyone that, so being archonically possessed, the normie, as gradually become the normal thing in human condition, especially in what's happened recently. So then we have the full spectrum control of humans via fear and torture through wars, SRA, and coercion. It is plainly evident to you by now that this so-called society is a sick, infested, malignant, rotting, so-called incurable disease. So what should we do? What are we going to do about it? Because it's really getting bad rapidly, like any infestation that it hasn't seen the sunlight ever. And also that's why I'm feeling the healing medicine and a little bit of extra courage than just from the cannabis this time. So, and the belief in endless war is only true for loose supply. So why do you think they promote endless war? How does this help the humans, the organic, the respectful, the original divine Christ Sophia, the experiment of giving these souls or soul fragments free will, or the ability to learn, have a physical incarnation and have sex, reproduce, and grow a garden on the earth? And I grew some blue potatoes here this year in the spring, but endless war can kind of like prevent that if it was right here, bombs right here, because it would ruin your crop. And so I mean, there's good reasons why you find deep researchers, the most honest and forthright, discerning folks, adamant about becoming awakened, clear-headed, and especially escaping the forced reincarnation, memory wipe, endless near death, loose laundry cycle that these masters of deception have created that pretends to be human life. Will the majority ever even notice how unaware and siphoned they really are? Consider all the brilliant souls stuck in fucking survival mode. I mean, really? Does anybody really expect me to believe that that's a reality? Does anybody really expect me to think that all those thousands of brilliant souls that are, stuck in survival mode, you know what happens? As I felt it over the duration myself, that even if you're in the country club, psychological prison, golden chain, still you can become caught in the survival beast mode, and your creativity is. But those people who use creativity to so-called make a living, or to make the money or the transaction, to have the trade they need to survive, that's how you make peace with the Babylon. Learn to make, when I learned to make a living as a one-man band, or to make dinner money is all I made. But I mean, just that was like, well, I could buy my own dinner as a goalpost. But I give thanks to all my friends I met here online that are like the Near Death Research Channel and all the others for their contribution to learning what's really happening. Why did folks like the Cathars and Howdy Mikowski, I think he was going to write a book about him, and Yogananda, so many others, supposedly enlightened souls, refuse to reproduce or have no interest in copulation for making babies? Were they homosexual, or were they just, well, You know, there's a lot of people that feel like it's irresponsible because they don't want to bring a spirit into this soul meat grinder, you know, so to speak. So, see, the hell realm was grafted here almost forever. I mean, according to Lisa Renee's psychic research, it's, you know, it started a million years ago, Lucifer's rebellion, but you know, but what I be truth is that the Holy Ghost, Christ, Sophia, the original experiment, as I've said many times, from where we're spirits in these flesh suits were given free will, it began long before the Anunnaki got here. So the hidden knowledge. So we have to remember that, you know, when you go out to the forest, like my lovely home here for so long, I had to come back to visit, and because I love it here in the fall, the so-called Indian summer, and August starts spraying pretty white, cold, and gray most of the summer here. I was like, wow. But why Mahayana Buddhists seem to just want to hide and meditate and stay in a state of peaceful equilibrium, equanimity, equipoise, looselessness. Well, it's their brainwashing might be to be inactive or to just meditate, or to be what's called a sunyata or a renunciate, to not do anything, to hold a begging bowl, to meditate, to not do anything. I mean, that works for maybe a tiny fragment of the people, just like maybe a teeny tiny fragment of the people could go sexless and not go insane. But you know, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say on the numbers with it. I'm not the AI. I'm not going to be able to calculate those digits, and that's where that's where Loser 4 is the master too, the master of mathematical numbers and controlling. I mean, I caught him, someone who works for the alphabet, deleting my numbers of views, and so I fought them. I made a comment on my own video, really derogatory, making fun of how pathetic it was, and then the views started shooting up, and then I deleted the comment. That's my policy with them when they start, if they really get bad. Like, I did that the other day for just a few views, but for the second time ever since then. But you know, it's tragic when I don't. Yeah, it's those. Again, it's the shadow work perhaps I haven't done there. I don't know. On the other hand, when I made the first short video, it shot up in numbers. So, you know, maybe the CEO felt I was making peace with them there. I mean, I certainly felt like it was making peace a little bit to share this guy's message, although it definitely had the shocking compulsion quality that gets the numbers. But I felt like he had the Holy Ghost power, you know. So you can see that. So, whereas opposed to the Buddhist, every single one of us who has a 9-to-5 job, pays rent, property tax, mortgages, is legally married, a member of a religion, sect, club, or secret society. And of course, all of us who have serious disabilities just get recycled lifetime to lifetime, sucked back into the guilt-based looshing trap. Okay? So, what would you say if you could peer into the second bardo of Earth and see how much it is a nightmare of, you know, lost souls and archons and all these evil spirits trying to predate on you? How can we clear it? How can we clear the second bardo? I mean, what do you think? So, when I look at how disease or normal, when I look at how the disease of normal incarnation changed me, okay? What about over lifetimes? When I think about how much harm that I've done to myself and others, and that I've allowed others to do to me, just psychologically, even let alone physically. I mean, I was beat up, definitely, but I mean, you know what I mean? Just, you add it all up, it's like, whether you're aware of it or not, it happened, right? So you still have the trauma, or you might have the something, you know, some shadow work to do, something to heal there. So we carry these bones like our wounds. You know, if someone harmed us or we harmed them, unless you actually learn the process of self-forgiveness or have some amazing priest, I guess. I mean, you have to. It's your responsibility on the awakening path. And so it gets a lot lighter when you can actually learn how to do that somehow. And so I'm laughing because it's very challenging, because it's the opposite of A Course in Miracles, really. It's very challenging. It's not something you can just pray away. So those who simply often play by the Matrix rules have, you know, and all these other groups, you know, we get recycled. And my biological creator, can NPD be cured? My biological creator begged me for 3 years to take payments for my 2 or 3 seemingly incurable infectious diseases before I finally went into the interview. It is so fucking hard to. You thought I got the shadow ban just because I questioned Yahweh. The dark side loves my question, the title of this video, and you know, of course, and you know, it might have been the Archontic part of my subconscious that, or my shadow rather, you know, just my ego. Might have been my ego trying to get a compelling title because it's so important to even be noticed. And the dark side loves my question and works very hard to make it true through geoengineering. I mean, geoengineering is the most overt part of the whole thing, man. When they dump this shit, yeah, that's why I'm feeling relief now. It's finally not on me. So, or at least not as much. So Cliff High. So, you know, sure that, you know, the shaman in me, I can minimize or ignore the so-called incurable physical diseases that I might have been through, but can I fully heal them? Because, you know, the white coats will pretend like they can, and then how often do they do that, or without taking somebody out? I mean, how often? I mean, just, you know, I discovered, but healing could just make me suck. Cliff High through Chuck Swindoll, and I discovered Cliff High through Chuck Swindoll, and supposedly they both cured their big C. And with nature, we know chemo and the rest of their plants. Like the mortgage for normies can and will gut your entire bank account for its $1 trillion, I believe, generating big money so-called treatment with a very bad track record. On the other hand, who has the discipline and self-love to eradicate your entire body of infections and mutations simply with using nature? I mean, there are folks that have done it, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. The obviously so-called incurable physical diseases produce a magnificent lifetime supply of pure loosh for all those, you know, especially if they never heard of the stuff we talk about. The discipline and self-love to eradicate your entire body of infections and mutations simply using nature, very few. We have to disidentify with the Matrix place and humans' stolen divinity, you know, through religious conquest, you see. How can I keep my skin healthy if I stay here while the necessary early morning sun is behind a... No, I'm just taking it in the afternoon because that's when it's offered. The necessary early morning sun, even though it's got a lot more of the harmful rays of the ultraviolet and less of the red. early morning sun is behind a Sunday's natural white bog. You know, like I'm not denying that part of it's natural, okay? I'm just saying when they spray into it to the last 3/4 of the day, you get 2 hours of sun, that's not natural. Which is sprayed to block the sun all morning, every morning lately. Just like I say, one of the reasons I had to leave here, like the inversions of religion, government, secret societies, and their demands that the locus of control, as Sam Vaknin calls it, be over you is outside of yourself. In the sky, in the white coat's office, in the government chambers. Do you feel like me that you love to work hard, yet despise slavery? That's why we must focus on awakening ourselves. It's very important if you're on this path of awakening, true awakening. Is a psychological, because all of this is like a psychologically filthy trauma bond, or it is a psychologically filthy trauma bond in Stockholm Syndrome that goes way back to the beginning, way beyond this lifetime, way back. Why did Chang Tzu have to stay anonymous? How can I keep making 555 YouTube videos even after they still have the number lock on there? It seems like, 3 or 4 views. Am I a masochist? Well, I'm not doing this for the numbers. I'm doing this for those of you who really are learning things. Considering our drive and motivation, discipline and discernment, how bad, how good do you need freedom? Think about it, folks. How bad and how good do you need it? Because it's up to you. The conditions that you create, you're going to greatly influence this. Perhaps that's obviously, what's inside of you is going to greatly influence every situation you're in. Perhaps that's obviously my shadow work to release the disease-based codependency. Yet, who has done locally more in the USA more to overtly separate and denigrate those with physical diseases more than the physically extremely helpful yet socially isolating? In other words, narcissist and then all the heroes that are really helpful, but they're serving the system, potentially retarding and loose generating them. Then the wheel. We have the wheelchair-bound socialist president FDR that started the whole thing. So as I said last talk, if Nasara Jasara was real and not a sick pipe dream, maybe it would be okay. I was listening to Archim Ra today, and he was saying that if everyone got money and no one worked, then the world would collapse because there'd be no food and everything. And if the majority of souls were unplugged long ago, so to speak, and repurposed into their sick narcissists and slaves, can they ever stop? Can they ever stop? If nobody was a slave, if the machine equally served all. Now, this is what I was thinking, if they can create all these AIs and all these machines to do all this stuff, well, then we could live in the utopia if there was equal respect for people, if they didn't want to torture. It wasn't about loosh and hierarchy and torture. If the machine equally served all, not just the very rich or physically sick, if they didn't have all these eugenics dreams. More and more of us seem to want to die virgins. Why? I think it's over half of Japan. Like they don't ever. They're convinced they don't ever want. It's very hard to have cancer and MRSA either way. It seems nearly impossible to get rid of. There have been civilizations briefly on this globe that were peaceful and respectful, but they were all systematically infiltrated, infested, destroyed, and eradicated. They didn't produce loosh. They weren't inherently demonic. They didn't hijack the power. So they were all removed. Getting paid to be sick sucks, but not not as bad as spreading sickness. Ain't the country club psychological prison cool? You know, the golden chain. So they were all removed. What the hell is Michael L. Martin talking about when he's talking about how to do his thing or where he's going? There is so much good and beauty in the real world. The original version, this, you know, or at least the trees you see in the forest and the beaches and the mountains, the little parts of nature that you can still go to and visit. Of course, I highly recommend. So, can we really bring the Matrix down? John on Inspired, in all capital letters, says a lot of what I say. You know, he says a lot of the same things I say, but he knows how to do PowerPoint. He's a country rock star and everything, but he is so optimistic, still believing in the golden age, along with the Matrix trap. In other words, he talks about the afterlife and all that and hell realm, but he's optimistic, you see, because he has several grown children in their early 20s. He doesn't want to put these ideas into their head that there's no hope. And in near-death experience research, they say we often become addicted to, or Robert Monroe was saying it, that we can become addicted to being human. Does ganja feel so good? Does it feel so good that I can become enticed for another round of suffering? Can the false self Archon Matrix be taken down? Are we going to possibly actually enter the promised 1,000 years of peace and light, where we're all enlightened and it's not this fucking loose farm of hell? Or is this entire structure, like cancer and MRSA, are seemingly going to be these incurable diseases that just transform into the bank account dissolving and the mortgage getting taken over and the person dying more rapidly, or whatever, all that kind of evil transformations? Is this entire structure, like cancer and MRSA, or are seemingly incurable diseases that can mutate and injure us seemingly forever? Well, I mean, there's been master healers that have gotten rid of all these, and I myself have temporarily. You see, that's the thing. It's just to have the discipline. It takes I think maybe Chuck Swindoll Jr. and Cliff High, they deserve to have their huge audience, because if they have the discipline to do that, and the love and the self-respect, because it takes a lot of that too, and I've got I'm able to go to the Go Grocery Outlet and buy my $1.99 CBD, sugar-free CBD sodas again, man. So I'm thankful, for Santa Cruz for having that. You know what? With vastly greater awareness in the aggregate, truly anything is possible. Right. Anything is possible individually and collectively, man. It doesn't have to always be blowing each other up and killing each other and all stealing each other's shit and all that horrible crime. And it could be like building something beautiful, truly anything. But it will sure take a lot of work. Not a lot of taking it from slaving or giving it to our dark ET slave masters and their minions. For, like the physically, seemingly incurable diseases that are the furthest point of divergence from sovereignty. This is the most sinful and sick to our souls, and this is why they harvest my loose so powerfully and in such a wonderful, quantity and purity, and they're just so patting these archons, just pat themselves on the back if I don't have extreme discipline, and because they're going to harvest me. So some souls have healed fully and graduated or escaped, like Yeshua. Like I've said before, it says according to the Gnostic text, the Pistis Sophia, that and he got, I think when he arrived in the pearly gates in the moon, and the archons started falling over on themselves because they couldn't force him to do shit. They couldn't make him lie on that table. They weren't going to make him do anything. He might have made a hole in it. Like Yeshua, most will never know of them. Yet most people will never know about the stuff I'm talking about here, sadly. Until the world becomes healed. The Archon always demands a payment. Usually everything you have. Or all your money, or all your time, all your energy. I would say the answer seems to be a strong yes. The Matrix, the Hell Realm contagion, as my friend calls it. Yes. You might say that Luciferic inverted awareness, like narcissistic personality disorder that sprung out of his psychology that he created, in my opinion, the demonic realm. It's not curable, but it can be transformed. It can be changed into another form. It can learn to become wise. It can start an organic company that harms you somehow. It goes to these depths of subtlety, I think. Once we get out of this battle, after these years of, where we're going to be able to have peace for a long time, when we get to the age of Capricorn, that's when, throughout the age of Aquarius, it'll be shocking, a lot of the shocking awake stuff, but beside that, it'll become more peaceful. But when we get to the age of Capricorn, you see, because Loser 4 it's his archetype, so he's going to come in and work it back into a hell in some much more subtle way, And it's my opinion, my prediction. So seems to be a strong yes that it's an incurable disease. Yet, again, as we know, when the individual and then the collective finally remove the mental shackles, mental and physical shackles of the soul-sucking matrix's false, fake limitations, anything is truly possible. Yes, this place is very beautiful. Can it be freed? You hear the planes coming circling above me? First, we have to get the programs and the horse blinders off, and really open and heal the mind. Yeah, the shadow work. We all of us, most people have to do the shadow work. There's some that have done it as much as, or more of it, but it doesn't end. It's just, unless you really think that you're so enlightened that you're completely healed of all your trauma, your psychological baggage. If you enjoyed this and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Click on the notification bell for more, so that they might actually remind you. But yeah, this is one of those channels where you might have to search it out to find it. And of course, as always, and even when all this crazy shit isn't gonna, I've always said the devil's greatest strength is, well, they're in your face now. They don't try to hide that they run things, but it's just that they never give up. And so we that want to help to heal the world, to be starting with ourselves, to be respectful, to be decent, to be peaceful, even harmless or mostly harmless, aware, like to do what you need to do to survive this insane place. And you can, whether you got legal or not, some kind of private space that you can figure out how to sacred space, we call it, to create a great one.